South Carolina was the first state to declare secession from the Union. Quickly following them were states from the Deep South. Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas representatives gathered together on February 1861, declaring themselves Confederate States of America. Middle states were less willing to join the Confederates, even though they were slave states. Most middle states like Missouri, Maryland, and Kentucky held political power within the Union. A peaceful solution was sought, but no compromise was able to be met. In Lincoln's inaugural address, he declared that it was illegal to separate from the Union, and he would use military actions to make sure that that new law was kept. The South had to choose between the Union or war. A month after Lincoln's speech, the first cannon was shot on April 12th by the Confederate Army. With war breaking out, there could not be any neutral countries. Each state had to pick a side. Virginia was the first to join the Confederates, but Lincoln sent troops in and obtained the northwest border. Arkansas, North Carolina, and Tennessee quickly followed. Lincoln was able to secure Maryland, Missouri, and Kentucky. Confederates believed they were protecting their rights for self-government and saw the Negro race as inferior to the white. The first battles were bloody, and there were more casualties than ever before. These earlier battles were dominated by Confederate victories. Within the Mississippi Valley, Union took control and won battles. Lincoln wanted a quick defeat of the rebellion and sought generals that would provide that. In 1862, all-out war was decided within the Union. Troops were needed at the front, and Confederates were the first to force a draft. Two loopholes were put in place. One could buy his way out with money or slaves. The Union issued a draft and won support from native-born, middle-aged whites. However, immigrants from Ireland and Germany refused to fight, saying it wasn't their war. A rebellion broke out in New York City, and the Union troops had to be sent to end it. Women played a big role towards the middle of the war. With many injured soldiers, women took up male jobs and proved their value to the war effort. The Union had superior resources to win the war with its industrial factories and large population. The Confederates, however, used cotton as money to gain weapons and support from foreign nations, putting themselves on top. However, the Union pursued ways for northern states to provide for the war. Increased tariffs were put on foreign goods, encouraging state factories to increase. The use of slaughterhouses and railroads provided troops with means to keep their energy up. Banks created laws and finance plans to help balance the government's big spending of the war. The Confederates began to fall apart with their debt started by the war. To fix it, they began to print paper money, but with this, prices increased and the South society began to collapse. Republicans of the Union demanded that emancipation be part of the war. During the chaos of the war, slaves fled to the north to seek protection. These refugees became known as contraband, and after the Confiscation Act was passed, were declared freed once captured. Emancipation became a weapon of war. Lincoln spoke about emancipation, declaring, "If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it." The Emancipation Proclamation was passed in the Union. The Vicksburg and Gettysburg Union victories were devastating losses for the Confederates. The people began to lose faith and their firing support began to waver. After the Emancipation Proclamation, black soldiers were admitted into the Union Army despite previous refusal from white soldiers. A new Union general took command and proceeded to end the war quickly. They advanced on southern lands and fought to take out Virginia's army. In the 1864 elections, Lincoln's chances of being re-elected were not definite. Other leaders came forward to run against Lincoln, including General George B. McClellan, a general Lincoln dismissed twice during the war. Sherman's troops were able to defeat the Confederates, staking Lincoln's claim of presidency. Some abolitionists feared that the Emancipation Proclamation would lose its power after the war, so the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution. Slavery was at its falling point. The Confederates began to collapse on themselves when middle-class men claimed they were fighting the big white plantation-owning war. They refused to obey the draft. On April 1865, the Confederate capital had fallen, signaling the end of the war. The Union had been sustained and slavery was out of the country. The war was over and men were able to go back to their homes. Union destruction of Confederate lands was devastating. Rebuilding the South and fitting it back into the Union was the new challenge, almost as hard as the war itself.